Glad to see so many fabulous faces and all these smiles. Thank you guys all for coming, and I'm sure you're all probably happy we're back to our old digs, a different room, but you know, the only constant in life is change, and so we want to keep everybody on their toes, I guess is what we're doing this year. So, if we want to get started, Jeff, are you doing the introduction or is Barb? Barb is doing the introduction. Okay, so we'll get going. Sorry, go ahead, Ben.
I've done this for years.
Okay.
I'm a veteran.
Just reminding you.
I'm a veteran. Good evening. How's everybody?
Evening.
Want to welcome you tonight. We're going to have a talk by my friend Kobe Franklin from Walnut Ridge Greenhouse and Nursery. He's actually the landscaping portion of it.
Yes.
And a little bit about Kobe. He's an integral part of Walnut Ridge for 28 years, beginning as a landscape foreman and spending the last 26 as lead designer. He holds an associate degree in plant sciences from SUNY, and I had to look that up at State University of New York.
Yes.
Cobleskill, thank you. And a Bachelor of Landscape Architecture from the College of Environmental Service and Forestry at Syracuse University. Kobe's a member of the Indiana Nursery and Landscape Association and is a certified master horticulturist through the organization. He lives in Jeff, and he's close to me, thank goodness, because I'm calling a lot. And with his wife, Marcia, who's sitting back here, we're glad to have her with us tonight, who's an art teacher. And Kobe enjoys combining his passion for design with a deep appreciation for natural beauty. So without further ado, welcome my friend Kobe.
Right, Kobe, I'm trying to get you,
You're fine.
I'm trying to get you shared on the Zoom land.
Does this go off?
Yes. It should, I think you may have to just hold it.
Just the
Why don't you go on and we'll get it, we'll catch up with you.
Okay. If you guys can't hear me, just raise your hand and I'll try to talk up a little louder. What we'll do, thank you for having me here too. I'm glad to be amongst plant people. That's great. What I'm gonna do is kind of walk you through kind of how we do things from a landscape design point. Try to go through just the steps and how when we show up to your house, what we do from site analysis to layout to why we pick plants we pick, that kind of stuff. And then we'll kind of get into a little bit of the meta stuff with the elements of design, and the principles of design too as well. We'll touch on some of those, but I've got a base plan of my house that we'll kind of walk through. I've got some pictures too, once we get the thing rolling, we'll get some pictures and kind of go through my process for my own landscape and what I did, and then kind of get through phase one. We've got about 35 slides, so we'll kind of move through these kind of quick. If anybody's just got anything, just go ahead and shout out, hey, don't understand, or, you know, raise your hand and we'll get to you. And then we'll probably save a little bit at the end there for questions, and then I've got some new plants that we're kind of using that you guys might know. But we'll jump into a few of those too. We will kind of see the time that we're dealing with.
Okay, here we go. Oh, this is the video.
Good. Does anybody got any questions while they're coming back?
Sorry.
Any issues that are going on? Anybody's
You get what you pay for.
Yeah.
Poison ivy and Virginia creeper.
Yep.
In my
Go see.
landscaping.
Okay.
In amongst my flowers, how do I get rid of it without killing my flowers?
So they do make, those two kind of look identical. So it's a little bit tricky, but I would go ahead, it's two things. It's, I'm not a big user of Roundup. I kind of use the natural, but they do make a Roundup that's specific for poison ivy. So you can, I'd kind of use my foot. I kind of just spread it out or do whatever and kind of skirt it in between to try to kill it. That's the best way to get it. You can use your hands and pull it. It's just, you gotta be real super careful with that stuff. Yeah, we're all, I mean, I'm super allergic to it too. So using that Roundup spray is probably the best way to do it specifically says for poison ivy. So the Virginia creeper is Virginia creeper, but I would say sometimes when we get those things mingled, I would just use gloves and spray the whole thing. Virginia creeper's fine, it's native, so.
How do I get, it's in amongst my blocks.
Yeah. You have to sacrifice some flocks, I think, to get rid of it. So once it dies, you see it brown, you're gonna have to dig it. You're gonna have to sacrifice some flocks because trying to pull that stuff out of there, it's got a pretty deep taproot on it, so you're just gonna have to.
Paint it, yeah.
Yeah.
I painted it, like spray a little bit into it and paint it and take it. Paintbrush, I've done that.
Newspaper, like a barrier, so.
Just don't see my slides.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're fine. Like you guys. Oh, there we go.
Yeah. If you need to, Harley, I don't know if you can minimize that. Yeah, okay.
So we're gonna just jump into this. The first kind of few things that we do when we pull up, and it's one of these lessons even I was taught when I first moved into our house down on Utica Pike, is to observe an animal. Where your light's coming from is probably the most important thing, where your shade is. With our house, we kind of sit a little bit weird. We're not fully north-south, we're kind of just askew, so our sun comes up and then our neighbor has trees, and we'll show you a couple when I get into these. But that's probably the most important thing. It took me 2 years to kind of really narrow down to where I'm really getting most of my sunlight and where my shade is. Kind of crazy. Didn't think I had as much shade as I do. But that's the probably the most important thing. And then we're going to talk about bubble diagramming. This is probably the second most important thing because it really allows you to kind of start shaping space without being, for a lot of us, we get bogged down with the details. And if this is, you can just kind of do these big bubble diagrams, and we'll get into this and show you where you want to move pieces of the parts around. And then we'll show you a little bit of a concept sketch on my own place and how I kind of figure things out with my notes. Get into some plant selection, a little bit of a refined plan. So this is my house. This is looking off the front porch. So we got a lot of things that are going on. In this first slide, I just planted some bottle brush buckeye along this thing because I don't want these things to get big. But really, when I look out here, we got a really busy road, and that's Allison Lane, and this road is just crazy busy. And then in the back here, you can't really see it, but up in here is a huge generator. So when we lose power, Oak Park has a tree go down, we lose power, that thing kicks on, super loud. So it's one of those things when I looked at and sat here, this is east, and the way our sun comes up, and you can see my neighbor's trees on that one side, and that whole half of that yard falls in the shade. Even though I almost face due south, it's kind of crazy. You just don't think you're gonna get that much shade. In the middle slide, really the thing that I'm trying to capture is our view out our front windows is that river. It's kind of down that narrow chute, and I wasn't a river fan, but once we moved there during COVID, it was the most peaceful thing watching just boats go by real slow. Yeah, so the walls there, I kind of broke, and I'll show you this on this plan, but we kind of broke it up into two parts of the yard. And then on the last slide, that's my neighbor. He's got a beautiful garden of his own, tons of trees, tons of dogwoods, tons of Japanese maple in there. It's really gorgeous, but he screens us off on that one side, so he does a really nice job. And the other thing is we sit on really sandy soil, really fortunate. But after that wall, it probably drops off a good 6 to 8 feet. So it gradually grows down, but we have, you can see my neighbor here, we've got some ponding issues and some issues like that we have to deal with. So this is mine. This is on CAD. This is the base plan. Now we take this and what we really do is all the important part. It's the house, it's driveways, the sidewalks, it's where the windows are. Window and door locations, existing vegetation. So when I do these plans, anything that's on there is the stuff we're gonna keep. This is really the next part of it. And then we got a garden that we put up, but you can kind of see where we face north, south, and east and west. So we do get that southern, but with the way the sun sets during the evening, it's pretty shady. But this is our base plan, and then we'll do overlays, which is really great. We just keep that. That's two. We normally don't go anything past detail wise, anything more than an inch. So we really, you know, if something's 65 inches, that's it. We just call it 65. We'll go 65 and 3/4. But we get it as close to scale as we can. And generally we'll do this on graph paper. 1/8 graph paper. So every square is 8 blocks so that we know, well, 1 foot is or one whole block is 8 feet. So one little square is a foot. But this is going to be our base plan. And then we do overlays with sketch paper. And this, so this is bubble diagram. So this is really fast, easy, loose. And you can kind of see on this where we just pulled this one up as an example, but you see all these arrows are that kind of is going to be how we link these spaces together. That could be pathways, that could just be visual cues, but you can start to see how we lay those out with privacy. Want to do garden bed or landscape bed, and we start mapping those out, but keep it very loose. Because we tend to get bogged down with the details, and once you start with one little bed, you start getting too detailed with it. So we just kind of works on your master plan. And I apologize for the slide. That one, this was like I kind of did this upside down. This one's upside down, but this is my notes. So on this, I really started with the front porch bed and then thinking about a patio here, maybe something here. And then as we moved, I kind of sat on it for 3 to 6 months because it's one of those things I don't have a whole lot of time. So when I was doing this, we were kind of busy, but it's one of those things that let me just get some ideas out on paper. And then the other thing is you can pull that off and then we start to refine it a little bit. So patio's up in that corner because that first slide where you saw where my view is my river. It's just fantastic. So that's where we decided we're going to set a patio. We're really good friends with our neighbors. So it's one of those things they can come over, set on our patio. But really it's a water feature that splits that eventually. And then there's the walls. And then the rest of that I'm pulling out the lawn. The rest of it's just going to be planter beds of stuff that that we really choose, really like. And then that's like the first phase of it. So it's kind of getting a little more detailed and I'm starting to think about plants. And I would say the other thing that I do that I didn't show here on the slide is I kept a little notebook. I'm doing this in January and February when you're kind of getting jonesed up to get outside and start doing things. We got a really fabulous show that we like to watch and we'll get to that towards the end. But I just started keeping notes of the things I wanted to put in there, things that I really, really like. And then I started keeping notes when those things flower, when they're done flowering, the size and the height. I do a little bit on texture. I don't really get too caught up in the texture of it. Just ease of maintenance. And then I arrange these things that I like in color blocks. So I know sometimes I get a little carried away with too much orange, too much yellow, too much purple. So I kind of want to use the full gamut. And then I'm really into the grasses. The grasses I think are just one of the easier ones. They've got a couple new ones out. They've been around. Some of these Shenandoah grass, and this guy has a new one. This is tufted hair grass, which is this champion, which is a kind of a native Midwest grass. And then yeah, and the other one that's new that we caught this spring is this dogwood. It's orange flame, I think it's called dogwood. It's just that's winter color instead of the red. It's just absolutely stunning. One of those garden shows they do nothing but a winter garden, and everything has generally no flower, no leaf. It's just color from stems and limbs and leaf texture. And then the last one is a planted castor tree. It's one of my favorites. So, but this is really how we start to kind of, so the bed's there, the wall's there, the stuff, so we're, next step is planning. Yeah.
I'm sorry, what did you say was your favorite?
This back here, cat surgery. It's kind of unusual, the fact that it will leap all the way into, you know, most leaves around the outside, this one will leap all the way in, but it's just a beautiful, apricot color.
Say it a little slower.
Yeah.
Yeah, cat syrup.
That's here.
Yep, cat syrup,
Is it a-
Katsura.
Is it a weeping cat?
No, it's, just, it's kind of your, it's not really a round lollipop, it's kind of got a little bit of that oval shape to it. But it's, we don't really see, we brought this one in on a container. Again, it's part of the, you have to really look hard for these things now.
Is it a native?
That one is not, that one's probably from, Japan or China, Katsura.
Does it bloom or is it?
Doesn't bloom, so just a leafy green, but when that leaf does come out, those new leaves got a little bit of red around the edges. You look really hard, there's a lot of detail to that plant, it's got a little bit of limey green too, with a little bit of red on the leaf. Just really fascinating. This will be some of the stuff we'll get into. I'll try to keep it a little bit light, not too heavy. We'll talk about line, texture, shape, form, space, and color, and those are the elements. So those are like the foundation of your design. That's the stuff that the walls and the roof and the ceiling of your design. And then the design principles, the patterns, the rhythm, the balance, the movement, and those are really how we decorate those walls. These are some of the key elements. I'll just leave this up for a second so you guys can see that, and we'll try to get into some of these things, especially on the color wheel. So line. Line is easy. Line is you naturally do this. You guys are probably naturally, you don't know that you're doing it, but you're subliminally doing it. And if you look at line, line is that line to the statue and to what's behind it. It's how that alley of trees brings your eye down to that statue. It's the way that purple allium just lead you right to it. So that's really line. You're just taking your eye and what do you focal, sending how your eye reads that. Just picks it up and runs you to the most important thing, which is your focal point. But that's really what line is. It's the most effective way is to give us direction. It's where we want to lead us to. This is another element. So you can do that's straight. But if you look at that curved line on that pathway and the way they jump that color, it leads you down there. So that's the even line. It can be just how that brings down to the garden path. And then it's a little less formal, a little more loose, and yet it brings you down that pathway. So that's the element of line. Form. So form is really the three-dimensional experience of that shape. Shape that on that base plan that I showed you, all those circles and all those little different plants listed. That shape. Form is we take those shapes and put them in the three-dimensional. What do these things look like? What do these things look like in their 3 dimensions? So it's typically the conical, the globosa, the box, the cylindrical. So we're going to start choosing our plant material based on some of these forms. Yes, it is. So some of them, Green Mountain Boxwood, you got your boxwoods there. That one up in the corner there, that's a new one. Last couple of years, Cryptomeria. It's round shape, but it's got that really fine texture to it. Really an interesting plant. And again, that's a new one that we're trying to get away from boxwoods. This one's Linesville arborvitae. Kind of got a blue color to it, blue tinge to it. And then the other guy there on the right is Taylor juniper, which is a really cylindrical, gets really tall. It's almost like an Italian cypress, but it's meant for our zone. But this one again, this one light trimming on this one, hardly any trimming, but stays in that really round shape. Then there's form again. So we got the conical, And then we got a bunch of crazy, right? That's, that roped in thing, so that's a really good illustration of what we can do with form. It's all the same, that's boxwood, two different things, but that takes a lot of time to get that thing there, so.
Really, like, yeah, how many years it will be, 10 years.
Yeah, it's,
At least.
and we'll jump into, texture. Texture is one of those that really probably not appreciated from far away, but more up close. That's gonna be a tactile thing. So what do we, you know, when we're driving through neighborhoods and you see these things, you don't really pick up on texture until you're up close. So it's an up close and personal, in my opinion. It's, you know, you got Landseer up there, that soft, everyone knows Landseer, that soft velvety touch. You got probably alliums up in that right-hand corner. So that one changes even with this texture as it flowers, and then the as it dries, it's a different texture, different look. Then you got blue agave down there, which is super smooth, but then you got those edges, and then you got this cactus. So it's a really good illustration of kind of the different textures we run into. The element of color. Color is probably the one we respond to the most. You don't need to see a whole lot. You go by somebody's house and it's these beautiful complementary colors on what's growing. You don't know what it is, but you look at that and it looks, it's the first response. We get a lot of response out of color. Like it says, it can bring the unity and visual harmony to an area. And it's also one of the, it lets us cheat a little bit. Like my house, I get sun in one part and shade in the other, and trying to balance those things. I can use something that flowers in deep burgundy on this side, something like the coral on this side. So that two different plants with the same kind of color, but we're using color to balance things. That helps you cheat a little bit. That's probably the easiest one that we all respond probably the most to, because we all have our favorite colors. And we jump into the color wheel, go over a couple things here, because I think it's pretty important. When things are in rhythm, when things look good, it's how we respond to, you know, some places that just love, the Italians love green shrubbery, just trimmed to different shapes and whatnot. But it's a you know, it's kind of that greens. But it's really what harmonizes everything. When you actually do this really, really well, the response is just much better. It really clicks with people. That you feel like this thing is balanced. This thing looks really, we get a lot of response out of things that we throw together. You know, the yellows and the purples. That's an easy one. Reds and greens look really good. Bounce off one another really, really well. So we can do a couple different things with the color schemes. Monochromatic, that's just like greens, or somebody, I have a couple customers that really just love white. Don't bring them anything other than what's flowering in white. So it's going to be a monochromatic. Analogous is going to be stuff like that share a hue, and they basically are like the green, the yellow green, and the yellow. Those are analogous. And then triadic are basically going to be across the color wheel there, evenly spaced. You know, like the yellow, the blue, and the red violet. And then the complementary colors, obviously the big ones, red and green, blue and orange, yellow and blue, or yellow and violet. So those are the elements. Those are the kind of the big ones. Those are the ones that really form the structure of a garden design. The rest of these are really how we're going to make that thing pop. That's really going to be a blank wall. So we start doing stuff with plant material that really starts speaking of, this helps us speak the language of design. Because it really, the elements kind of set the framework of what we want to use. The rest of this is going to really teach us what we're seeing, give it purpose. So here we go. This is a great one for rhythm. You can just look at that color. You look at those interwoven boxwoods, how it just forms. So that's rhythm. It's almost like a beat. You can walk down that path and you can just know, like, the way that color, that yellow and that purple pop together, the length of boxwoods. It's that visual pacing. Balance. Balance is probably one I talk most about with people when they, and we'll get into some different kind of houses, and I'll tell you a little bit about balance, because balance is really, I think, key when you're sitting back and we're just doing the front. And you look at these houses, some of these houses are big and awkwardly shaped, and you kind of have to you kind of always look at something, you go, well, it kind of leans like a little bit to the right. The garage is sitting, it looks really heavy right. How do we balance left? Make that thing kind of sit in the landscape. Really hard to do because most things now, the houses have gotten bigger and the plant material's gotten smaller. Finding big stuff, so. Symmetrical, balance left to right, but you can look at this. This is kind of like my house. I'm asymmetrical in my balance. I've got huge holly tree on one side, and my neighbor's got this long line of trees on the other. But it's counterweighted, so that really shows some balance there. We're just getting into a couple of different houses that we run into because really the house sets the tone for everything. When I show up to people's houses, they give me a list of the things they want and they don't want. But really, to me, what speaks to me is going to be their needs, honestly, but it's what kind of house they live in. What are we looking at? This is kind of a low slung, mid-century modern. People live there, it's a very refined palette when it comes to what they want done to their houses. It's really kind of, it seems very basic, but for the most part, there's a lot of rhythm with line there. Everything's kind of a rectangle, angle, square, and then we put a round circle in that as a patio. So that really offsets, that's the important part. That's the patios. So we break up a little bit of that vocabulary by putting something with circular, but it's just, and the height of these things aren't really tall. So we got probably a white birch of some sort there that kind of gives that house a little bit of scale, brings it down. Everything, that house really sits, obviously the grasses haven't taken off yet, but these are probably Carl Forster up here that eventually will fill out and you just go, softens that house.
That'd be a little bit more like a tranquilizer, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And when
A
you're
little bit of that.
considering landscaping today, do you go back and consider what he might have suggested to fit in with what he was designing?
Yeah, because it's very much, you look at falling water and you look at some of his houses, they're nestled in landscape. He understood that. So yeah, you look at these, it's, the homeowner really drives everything. When I pull up something like this and I'm like, oh my God, this is I love mid-century. You look at those lines and then it's a really refined palette. So you start doing some weird things where you're going like, hey, what if we just run some low hedges, use some of that angular lines, and you start talking that, and then it's like, oh, well, we kind of want to do what they do around these big houses. We want a lot of pokey stuff, and you go, oh, well, it's not really speaking to the language of the house. The house really, so we try to do that, but again, their one's right, you know, they, as I tell everyone, it's, you own it, you paid for it, we'll do whatever you want. It's, you know, I get in my truck, I leave, I go home. You got to look at it. So we try to convince them of these things. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. That's our house looking back at the other way. So very strange. This house never had a front door or a front porch. And you think it's symmetrical, but it's not. It's about 2 feet shorter on this side than it is on this side. And the fact that they have the garage and the screened-in porch now. But a lot of my concept, what I'm working off of, is I got a lot of very simple geometric shapes in there. Triangle, rectangle, lots of squares. So that patio will be around. Those walls speak to that geometry. And we tried doing something with some mandavillas up here. Try to get that to fill in with mandavillas, but did not work. And this front here is kind of changed as well. We don't have the magnolia sitting there. This is one of those kind of houses you see probably over in East End of Louisville, huge. They're on smaller lots too, so it makes going too wide and kind of balance out that thing. So we really kind of have to push things a little tighter than we like to. The key to this is, I think they've done okay on this one, is if you can't go up with trees or something, you have to bring that footprint of that bed out to meet you at the street, to give it a little bit of depth. Because the worst mistake that we make is when you see these houses and everyone puts a 4-foot bed in those houses, those plants look like they're on a window ledge. This doesn't give them room. They're like, hey, we're having to trim these things. These are high maintenance. So like, they're not high maintenance. If we just gave them the room to do what they normally do. We don't fight the architecture of the plant. It's a little less maintenance, but these can be really difficult. Because if you look at that facade, there's a lot of stuff going on. Really steep pitched roofs, different windows, different textures of brick and stone. How do we take some of that and tone it down? How do we make it look like it's fitting in the landscape. And they tried with some hollies probably. But they got one tree on that side. This one got cut off, but there's nothing on this side. You almost need, two or three or four on this side to kind of give them some. And the other thing with this too, I think if it works effectively to try to use not all the same size tree. Use a big tree, use a medium sized tree, and then use something slightly smaller. So you kind of have right there in itself, you got three things that are kind of giving you some scale, even though it looks more natural versus using all the same size tree.
So those trees in the front.
Yeah.
Yeah, will they stay in that shape, just get taller?
Most of them, I would tell you, most of the new varieties do. They hold a real, some of the new varieties don't. Foster holly and American holly were the ones there when we used to plant them all the time. There's a couple do Cassis Spire and some of these other oak leaf holly hold a really tight pyramidal shape. Don't get as tall. They're probably max out 6, 8, 10 foot tall versus 40 foot. So you're not really going to get it, but it's that house is probably, gosh, it's probably 40 foot tall. So what do we do to kind of bring it down and put it into that landscape? It's really difficult. The house has gotten bigger, the lots have gotten smaller.
So would it be better for that house if those trees were allowed to get a little bit taller?
Yeah, if it was me, honestly, I probably would maybe keep these low, but I'd probably do something like here. I'd pull a bed out here and maybe put one of those big hollies out away from the house a little bit further. And sorry about this being cut off, but there's some grasses over here, but you probably have to end up doing something here. And just bringing something out a little bit further, because it really is, a good sized house. So we'll jump, so that one's kind of the proportions and the balance of how we make these things look like they're fitting in the landscape. This one, Unity variety, and I think the best way to describe this is cottage gardens. And you see what the English do with their border, man, you just go, dang, that's fantastic. Really what unifies this too, one of the guys that we watch quite a bit, Monty Don, who's Gardener's World over in England. If you catch it, it's just, he's fantastic. But really what unifies this whole space is kind of like this boxwood hedge. They like to do these low boxwood hedges with this mixed, but allows you kind of, I think one of the biggest mistakes people make is I've done it, you get plant crazy, you see something new, you grab one or two, and they start, the next thing you got a whole massive stuff that doesn't really kind of fit together.
Yeah.
That can happen if you have something that really ties that whole thing in. You could do this and just run a boxwood hedge or something that kind of unifies a whole planting bed. But it's probably one of the best ways to kind of get a lot of variety and stuff. And you guys know
Look at that.
yeah. So you look at that house, you look at the roof line, you go, okay, so you got two similar shape, so they got those similar shapes. So to me, that just really brings everything down. And the other thing I think that happens really well, look how white just kind of balances everything. And you got these really sharp reds in there. You got a little bit of that lavender, some yellow tones in there. So those purples, that red and that yellow really, then you got some stuff in there too. I think with your broadleaf, it looks like hostas, and you got a big dude over there that just, I think that texturally reads really well. So focal point. Really focal point is probably one of we all understand it for the most part. We know what we try to do. We try to bring, generally for us, it's bringing people to the front door. Some of the largest spaces when we're doing all around creating those outdoor rooms, then you'll have multiple focal points. Generally not, one in each room for the most part, but you typically try to move people in and around on a bigger lot on focal points. So, like I said, we try to get people to the front door. This does it really well. It's a red door. You look at that red, that line brings you right to that. And then even those plants up on the side, it brings you, offsets it with some white, but it gives you a lot of attention to that front door. I mean, you're going to go, that's the first thing you're going to do. You're going to walk to that front door. That's a really easy way. What we try to do is bring you to that front door like that. And this is a really easy one. So it's not your front door. It's another outdoor room somewhere. Just a simple blue chair up against that green shaped softened edges with all that plant material. Proportion, it's a little bit back to that balance and proportion. It's a really great one. Most of our trees nowadays for what we plant, I call them the legacy plants, the big trees. We need those. I think we focus mostly on the pretty things that flower in the spring, the cherries, the serviceberry, the magnolias are great for pollinators, but for the most part, the big trees are really what keeps us cool, creates everything, little microcosms, microclimates around everything. So this is just a really simple, easy one to show you kind of what's going on with proportion. And we'll talk about rules of thirds and 2/3. That's a little more complicated what it gets to, but here's contrast. So this one covers it all. It's a really great space actually, because look at the color contrast and just the gravel. You got those stepping stones, you got those hard edges, the squares, the rounds, even the texture of the plants. I think it just contrasts against each other really, really well. Smooth white wall, then that fine wood paneling on there kind of breaks it up, but yet it follows the line, the perspective. Stuff. So we'll kind of hit some of these and we'll take a bunch of questions. I know it's probably going to be one of those things that you guys want to get through a bunch of stuff, but we'll jump into one of my big ones is avoiding clutter. I'm a big one. If we can, if it's not the homeowner really lets us, we kind of let things space out, let them grow into one another, take time. Time is everything. That's the big one. Give things room to breathe and do their thing. We'll be patient. Because there's nothing like things are getting more expensive, part of the reason why we've kind of slowed down on our planning, this stuff does, even with my discount, it's expensive for me even. But the biggest one is avoiding the clutter, because there's nothing like wasting good plant material just because we were in a hurry. Well, Mother Nature doesn't work that way. She just is not in a hurry. Scale is important. I think we put a lot of big stuff up too close and don't put it in the out away from the house and let it do what it's going to do. Level changes. Our house has a level change. I think Olmsted did it great. You cut a hole here and put a mound of dirt here, and you go over to the parks in Louisville, all of his parks. You drive through those things, it's up and down. It makes it more dynamic. Just by simply, when I plant something, I typically don't plant it on a flat plane. We'll try to at least mound it a little bit, give a little more interest. I think, we all love what the guys on the card's got, but layering is probably the thing that really makes the landscape stand out. Not just, tall holly back here, something flower in the middle. Let's put something in front of that flower thing. You get those 3 layers or 4 layers. You get a ground cover going. Season to season. That's the other thing. I think kind of lose sight of everything. I'll tell you right now, between now and everyone wants everything flowering all at the same time. Hurry up, give me something flowering right now. And we kind of forget about what happens in July and August because it gets so hot out and no one really is outside. But crepe myrtles and some of these other wonderful stuff that is going on. I think and then fall. I think too, fall is a garden. Everyone loves fall, but winter is one of the key ones I think we miss. I think we forget about the plants that got the berries. We don't take the time to look and see. We got a couple different hollies that do it. We got beauty berries, one of those with the purple berries on it. People just jump right into spring. You guys will take a minute, and it's one of my pet peeves. Is most people don't really plan for winter. Winter is probably, for me, it's my most relaxing time because I'm not slammed at work and we're not busy, and we can kind of go like, hey, walking through something. Some of these winter gardens are becoming more and more popular because people like Bernheim's doing a little bit of it now. You can actually go out there during the wintertime and be like, oh, this is fantastic. See something orange or bright red. The other thing is we try to engage all 5 senses best as possible. Smell, touch, taste. We can plant Swiss chard. Got some really cool, vibrant leaf to it, stalk to it. You can plant Swiss chard. Don't eat it, but you can always cut it and but that leaf texture, I think, is fantastic. Certain kales, there's some really dark colored kales that you can mix into plantings. how we get there, but touch, and I think sound is the other one, and I think if you can, I think to us, because we live so close to the river, we want a water sound. We gotta have it. It's the traffic is so loud there during a certain time of the day. And when we get to it, eventually having that water design something in there in the middle. And I think the last thing too, I think, like I said, one of the shows I like to watch is that Monty Don, but he does a really great Mediterranean, Adriatic. And you go look at all these different gardens, and it really, he did one in Paradise Gardens in like Morocco, and those courtyards with the tile and the coolness, the water, you go, that's what I want. That's fantastic. But I think it really just engaging all five senses. That's a really super tough thing to do, because it's, we fall in love with plants and we kind of go, oh, I like something like that. I have a real problem because most of my plants, perennial wise, 18 inches, 24 inches, I kind of get set in that zone. I have to go, let's do something bigger. Let's do something 3 to 4 foot. Pollinators, as we know now. I've been on this, actually Barb, when she really kind of pushed me over the edge here, with her butterflies. But I think it's one of those things that we talk about, we hear about it, but it's one of those things that's getting, my wife and I last year kind of sat there and go, the bees aren't here. Normally I plant a lot of catmint. It's one of my favorites just because it's easy to reflower a lot of time, but the bees that are on it, and I have a ton of them around my house that weren't there. And you kind of wonder, who's spraying what and when they're spraying it, because we never have had that problem. But last year was the first year we kind of noticed that. And I said, it's really easy to do. I mean, it's not that complicated really to find something that the bees love. It doesn't have to be 30 different things, but if it's 2 or 3 things in your yard that they can go do what they do, butterflies too. I think it's really, really important. It's some new plants. Couple new plants. We know catmint. That's one of my favorites. That's cat's pajamas. This one here on the right, you guys might know this one. This one's called Helenium or sneezeweed.
Oh, yeah.
Super great. That's a natural setting for that is along riverbanks, heavy clay soils, wet, likes it wet. Comes in a range of colors. I put a couple of those in just to see what they're going to do. This other one, I can't take credit for it, but the top one there with a white daisy. Does anybody know what that is? Amnil. So it's that's the Roman. I had a customer that said, hey, can we do this in a ground cover around my porch? And I started it from seed. Get real lucky. Most of it seems like it's coming up, but I think that's going to be a really interesting one to see if we can't, because that will flower from about July until about November. And it's got texture wise, it's really interesting, but it crushes, smells kind of nice. You can make tea from those flower heads, but
What is it again?
chamomile. It's the Roman chamomile. There's a German and a Roman, or the English. Yeah, so it's one that I would tell you it moves by rhizome. So it's not one I reading some stuff online. Somebody said, I threw seed down, I went everywhere, and like, well, that's what happens when you throw seed everywhere, it goes everywhere. So I think it's by rhizome. I've got it in like a 4-inch plant, and I pull it out, and you could actually pull it apart, prepare it, and plant it. So a little bit goes a long way, but I don't think it's going to be, it doesn't look like anything that's going to go running wild. But just a really interesting one. I think that's another great one. I think texturally, you get the smell. It's one that you can drink if you want. But I think the other one too is this Helenium. I think that's a really important one because most of let's say the majority of our customers are dealing with really heavy and heavy clay soils, full of water. It's been super wet, how much rain we had in the last, 3 or 4 days. So that one I think it's going to be a little bit, it's a native. It's going to be a little more suited to our soil systems. There's a couple things too. I think if you kind of get into this and really, there's a guy that I just find extremely interesting. It's Pete Olaf. He's done the New York City High Line where they took the old train tracks down and they made it a path and planted the heck out of it. And he did the Chicago Lurie Gardens. But you talk about weaving plant material, the guy's a mad genius. I mean, it is, when you see it, you just go, I don't know how you begin, but his patterns and his colors and textures that he uses is just amazing. But, and it's not 3-gallon plant material, it's small plant material, but he does these things with plants that are just, it's like a magician. But he's got there's a lot of 5-season interest or 4-season interest in there. And then one of my favorites is Monty Don, Gardener's World. It's on BritBox, it's on a couple of different shows. Super. He'll do everything from tomatoes, how to grow better tomato, better cucumber, to all this plant material we're talking about. And of course, Olmsted, because, I come from upstate New York and where I was schooled, and that was the one guy that they talked about, obviously, because of Central Park and whatnot. But to have as many parks as we do in Louisville, it's a gem. It really is. And they're dealing with a bunch of stuff, but I think to me, it's one of those, any of those guys would just be fantastic to look up and kind of do some, and that's it. So if you guys got a bunch of questions, fire away.
Then you go on Zoom and then you design pollinator gardens.
I do. We do quite a bit. It's just depending on where it's located, but yeah, we do. We got a bunch of we have a couple new women that are working in our perennial areas. That's where they came from, is kind of helping design pollinator gardens. 2 of them there, Jennifer and Carol, I believe, are really fantastic because they can help you just sort things, and you don't need a huge. You can start in a little 4x6 and just start messing with it. Yeah, it's really easy.
At the beginning of the show, you mentioned Shenandoah grass.
Yes,
Is that a native? Sounds.
that it is. That's one of those. I forget. I'm trying to think what the Latin is, but yeah, some of these are from the Midwest, West kind of thing.
Right.
So it's one that is clumpy. Got a really interesting seed head. Turns a scarlet red during,
I saw it. Almost,
and even the new stuff when it's coming out. And it's not one. We've some were pears. There's Chinese miscanthus. You can see it popping up everywhere now.
right, yeah.
So we're having real problems with those 2 pears. Were god awful, bad mistake on our part. Because those are really, I used to come when I first started here, 265. You see red buds, dogwoods, and whatnot. Now it's just pears, and then the state's having to come in and just they can't even cut it anymore. They have to just chew it all up. So these grasses are pretty. They don't spread, clumpy, really nice.
Kind of almost look like pink movie grass.
So pink muley grass, that's one of my wife's favorites. Really hard. It's cold sensitive.
Yeah, I heard that we're about
You're really,
this thing in Indiana that even has a shot.
yeah. You go out to Bernheim. They've got clumps of it. You go, dang, how do you guys do it? And like we're just 45 minutes away, 35 minutes away, but it's real sensitive to wet feet and then getting cold. But yeah, when that thing's, man, you go, that's soft.
So do you guys sell Shenandoah grass?
They do sell the Shenandoah grass. That this Jampia, or that little tufted hair grass, I think that's gonna be a really, because it's, we used to plant dwarf fountain grass like crazy.
Yeah.
Well, dwarf fountain grass now, it seeds into your lawn, you get these tough passages in the, it's kind of like that, it's just a small grass, doesn't need to be divided. And then another one is little blue stem or standing ovation.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorites. It's fantastic. Biggest mistake most people make, you gotta let that one over winter. Do not cut it back because it's got a fairly high crown, so if you cut them back, it's gonna freeze. Same with this Jampia.
We're told not to cut anything back anymore.
Yeah, it's anymore because you're one that's I think the seed heads and a lot of things there's like, and you can't really go, well, you'll know eventually they'll just like my little blue stem, they just push out and drop and you go, all right, clean it up, done. But that color is fantastic. For sure. And I would say too, there's speaking of some new plants, there's a couple new dwarf bee balms that are really catching on. Super easy. Stay small, or kind of, they're not reds anymore, the raspberries and these purples now. Fantastic. And then what was the other one? The hydrangeas are fantastic. The new hydrangeas now, you just sit there and go, there's 3 new varieties we just landed, you just sit there, now they're 2 foot by 3 foot. It's not a great pollinator, but if you want something easy and flowery, you don't have to worry about when you trim it back. Typically pretty drought tolerant for the most part. Most of the old school ones, I'm gonna tell you this, when they wilt, that's how they cool themselves. They're like, I went out there and got it cooled back, and you go like, yeah, don't do that. That's how it's cooling and stuff. You get them there and shoot it with the cold water, you're just shocking that plant. Like, yeah, I keep doing it every night. I'm like, yeah, you're shocking that plant every night. That plant's not gonna last. So just let it do what it's doing. It's just wilting because it doesn't need to, that's how it sweats for the most part. So, yeah, the bee bombs, and I'm trying to think, there's a couple new ones, couple new cone flowers coming out now.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you about that. I love coneflowers and I have a ton of them. But they all go purple. And-
Yeah, so you gotta do, so you can usually have one, two things. You can't go keep the purple away. Some of the new varieties, they have kind of solved that thing.
Oh, okay.
So yes and no. So it's either kind of lose the purple and go back in with what you want to go back in one. We've got one on, you guys are more than welcome. I'm gonna tell you, I got a new one coming. It's called Big Kahuna.
Oh,
And
okay.
it's a 4 to 5 inch size flower on it, but it's kind of this, it was on one of those slides, but it's kind of got a yellow face of orange, almost a little bit of purple, but that one's gonna be interesting to see what that one does. So, yeah, I think the cone flowers are super easy, and, we like them for the goldfinches. We love goldfinches.
So a lot of the new colors I found that are not as hardy of the cone flowers. Is it because you have the purple that they don't, but a lot of them, they bloom well the first year, but they
Yeah.
don't come back much after that. Or they-
So, I did a couple, some of the reds. And up by the porch, so I was experimenting, it was staying really, really wet, and it wasn't when they put that front porch on, they added topsoil instead of using what they dug out. Cause I got really sandy soil, so that stays I have these wet spots there. That one, two things, Aster's yellow, which is that deformation of that, it's a virus, so once that happens, you gotta get rid of them. Mine got that, jumped to, my other ones, and that was into that, so I just pulled them out, and said, forget it. And I think if they stay too wet, they get some mildewy stuff and they rot. So it's really kind of about keeping them really, especially these new ones. I think you're right. I think the purples are solid. When you start getting into some of these newer colors, I think they're really when they do these cross with all the different colors and stuff, you lose something.
Yeah.
Most of your hydrangeas don't smell, you kind of go like, that's weird, right? All the roses, you go, man, these tea hybrids and everything, they all smell wonderful, but when you start messing with that genetically, you're just losing something. So when you deal with different colored cone flowers, I think it's, you gotta put them in a lot lighter. I try to make it as light as possible. We use, leaf mold. I kind of save my leaves, blow them into the thing. That's a really great one to kind of, especially if you got heavyweight, wet, clay soils. Leaf mold, it's basically I just take my leaves and get them wet and ride them over until they're really fine. They break down. That's a really great one to add around stuff to kind of keep them from sitting too long. It's not a real nutrient value, just kind of acts as kind of more like acts like a sponge and kind of dries those out. But I find a little bit of success with those when I did that. I moved what I had left and kind of put them in a little corner. They seem to be doing fine. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, the edging stones that you did, that you
Mhm.
like make a
Border edge with.
board with? How do you keep them from sinking down in the ground and?
Well, two things. So it's what you put underneath them. So a lot of times we'll use like a coarse dense grade. Sets up it when you compact it.
A coarse dense grade gravel?
Yeah. You can get it in little bags at most of the box stores. So if you don't have a lot of it, we just go up to first person, grab a truckload, but it hams up, and when it's wet, it sets up like concrete. Then we set those on there and we kind of level everything up. And the other thing is too, if it's those small little ones, sometimes you can use a little bit of landscaper's glue. It's a push them together, and that kind of holds everything together to keep them from rocking and moving. But for the most part, we just leave them alone because that's going to heave a little bit and they're going to want to move. So every couple of years, we just kind of tap them back down and put them back in place.
How thick do you have your gravel?
The gravel's probably going to be at least 4 inches. So you kind of dig out and then you just put it in there and really just tamp it pretty hard.
I was out there a couple of weeks ago and I saw a plant that I recognized from California.
Mhm.
And I talked to a lady, I said, is it gonna survive the winter here? And she said, yes. And so I went back a week later and I bought it. It's a yucca.
Yep.
Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, so it's probably one of the golden ones.
Yes.
Yeah, so they, yeah, it's kind of like the ones that were around here that I've dug out more yucca than I can. So the golden one, but the golden one is, if you're gonna plant one, that's the one to plant, because to me, it's just way more interesting. So that one will survive. So they will multiply. They typically don't have any problem with those. It's pretty cool hardy for here.
Okay, so my plan is when the flower comes out,
Mhm.
I wanna cut that off.
Yeah, because it's typically, it's okay.
I
I
can do that.
mean, yeah, you can do it. You force it out of flower, it's gonna go back into growth.
Okay.
So you're not gonna hurt it.
Okay,
And it may be a couple years before that does it anyway, but for the, I mean,
Yeah.
it's an adjustment, but that's the nice part of the too, honestly.
okay, great.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Do you do landscape designs for somebody that wants to do their own planting?
Yeah.
And have for a fee, you would come in and say,
Yeah, we just typically, what we do there, because we run into that quite a bit, sometimes hey, I want to do this myself, I enjoy it. Okay. Here's what I would do, we just kind of work out the kinks for you. We just ask it, you come in from my time or somebody else's time that comes out there, just, hey, come on in and buy some plants from us. Cover our gas, cover our time, that kind of thing. I mean, if you're gonna do, we do a lot of that. It happens from time to time. Yeah, we have a couple of landscape guys that we work with that tear trees down, and I draw up plans for them all the time because the software's gotten expensive. No one wants to go out and buy a really big printer to print these big plans. Ink's a fortune. So it's just, anymore, we just go like, hey, what do you need? And we put it on a plan for you. But it helps kind of work out the kinks. And then we just leave it with you and say, there you go. And we can peel out potato, sometimes we go, hey, we'll pull all this out, prep it, bring the plant material, you knock yourself out, plant it. Yeah, we do it. It just, sometimes when people get to it, and you're ready to do it, and you're like, how much for you guys to go ahead and plant it and take care of it? Because it's what everyone has time for. So we are on when I first started here, it was a 5A, or it was zone 5A.
Yeah.
We're 7A now. Right, so we used to be cool, nice in September and October. Now it's cool in August, dry in September and really warm in October. That freeze that we had back in December, 2 or 3 years ago? It wasn't the cold, that stuff tolerates the cold, it's got cool hardiness, those laurels, the boxwood, everything, they're cold hardy than -30. The problem is it was 80 degrees on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and by the time you got to Friday night, it was -30.
Yeah.
It's 110 degree temperature change.
Right.
So yeah, you go, nothing. That doesn't happen. When was the last time that happened? It was like, you get those cold snaps, you get them in February or March or whatever. Mhm. Any more? All right, thank you guys, appreciate it.
Thanks again, Barb, for bringing in that for Kobe. He was fabulous.
He is marvelous.
He is marvelous. I wish I could be a designer, but I just kind of buy what I want and I just put it in without a lot of thought. So I loved it. Thank you. Yeah, he's wonderful. Thank you. Next, so I am calling this business meeting to order. I guess I'm all about this official stuff. So Veronica, you're first on our list, young lady.
Thank you. All right, the minutes from the last Master Gardener meeting, monthly meeting were published in the newsletter. And if I would entertain a motion by someone to approve those. I motion. And that second, Joan. Any comments, discussion, edits? That's good, so, all those in favor of approving, thank you. All those in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Opposed?
no, May.
Pass. Thank you.
Thank you. Are you done eating now, Mike, that you can talk? Okay, good, I'm glad you're right behind you, I'm gonna get behind you.
All right. Oh, you did it. Is it,
Here, you're gonna have to.
share it. I have to share it. I have to change what I'm sharing. Just, oh, you shared this?
Yeah.
Okay.
She took care of it for you, isn't it nice?
Didn't know you were doing that. Thank you.
Great teamwork.
That's right. Okay, we have our April report up here. We started out with $30,426. Receipts for the month, we've got the Kroger Community Rewards. It's a quarterly, check we get. Then the Pollinator Day, we had a few different categories. We had, donations of $345, T-shirt sales, $685, and then, on Pollinator Day, the SMG booth received $780 in donations. And they worked real hard for that. I saw it. Tomato Festival, we received a $500 corporate donation for the Tomato Festival. That was kind of out of the blue. So that's a really good start for that program this August. And then Youth Master Gardener money starting to roll in, so we got $70. So total receipts, $2,490. Disbursements. Well, that's good. Okay, disbursements, our annual insurance premium was $484. That's our commercial insurance. Newsletter costs, for the ones that we mail out to members is $61. Just general printing for the quarter, January through March was $46. We had Pollinator Day expenses is $4,613. Most of that was the cost of the T-shirts and totes, and then the silk screening of the totes and T-shirts. And then some other smaller expenses on Pollinator Day. We had statutory filings, that's what I call it. That's our federal nonprofit tax return filing, and then our annual Secretary of State report filing. So our regulatory filings are all up to date through the end of the year. Tech website, we had a Wix license of $19. And down on the projects, we just had a few dollars trickling in. Most of it was copy charges, but the total of all those was about $34. So $53,829 was our expenses. And then our ending cash balance was $27,587. Any questions? Good.
Need to stop that?
Yeah, now I stopped it, but you need to reshare the agenda.
Okay.
Okay, while she's doing that, I'm just gonna mention a couple things. Just a reminder, we do have the sign up sheets in the back for both the picnic and for Oxmoor Farms. The price went down for Oxmoor Farms, so Margie emailed us and said for whatever reason, it would have been $8 per person, but it's gone down to $5. So that was a very nice discount that they gave us. Also, we pay money to have these printed. Please make sure you get your discount cards. We really, please, and use them. I mean, because these people do support us and if, you know, that kind of thing. Because we may have to consider not printing them, because it is a big expense for us. And if no one's using them, then we have to save some money, you know, a little bit here, a little bit there. So just a reminder to that. Also, Kathy Strecker is not here today for Youth Master Gardeners. She had mentioned last month that she had needed the peanut butter jars. If anybody brought them, please give them to me because I will be going tomorrow morning to work on the garden with her.
I got it.
You got them. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, so we have those and so we should be good to go. Because yeah, we've been working, we were supposed to have a work day, was it?
Tomorrow.
Well, we were supposed to do Monday, but we got kind of rained out. So we're doing that tomorrow instead. Okay, next on our list is Jeff. You have a couple things to talk to us about, please?
I do. Most of it you've already talked about, but that's okay.
Yeah.
So thanks to those of you who have already paid for the picnic tonight, seeing Debbie and turned in your money for that. Again, you are welcome to come on June the 7th at 4:30 p.m. Dinner is going to be at 5. Please remember to bring that dish to share, very important. Something to drink and especially lawn chairs. We're in the smaller east shelter this time, so we will need some extra chairs. So please bring your lawn chairs, not as much seating. You are also welcome to bring up to 3 plants for the plant exchange, and you might have some outdoor prizes to share that evening, which we will be happy to welcome. If you have not paid tonight, you can still do so by mailing a check to Mike Brodford. That's at 302 Valleydale Drive, New Albany, Indiana. His address is in the directory. Those checks must reach him by May the 30th. Or you could also pay by Zelle. He's happy to take payments that way. We need those by May the 30th. We're also taking reservations tonight for only $5, as you just heard, for the Oxmoor Farms tour. That'll be at 2 o'clock on Monday, June the 23rd. If you haven't signed up tonight, that's okay. You can still sign up at the picnic. See me at the picnic if you want to sign up for that event. Questions?
Anybody that pays by Zelle, make sure you pay under your name, so I know who it is. Sometimes people will use a friend's name, a friend's Zelle account, and I don't know the friend. So if you do that, we don't know who paid, and I just got $5 extra.
All right.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jeff. Question.
Do you have the address for the Oxmoor Farm,
I do not.
where we're supposed to meet? Only because
This meeting at the farm, which is near Oxmoor Mall.
Yeah, if you, drive to Oxmoor and don't turn, you run right into it.
Right into the farm, right by Oxmoor.
Yeah, it's right there, yes.
Is it the farthest road that you go down?
Yeah, it's the farthest road you go down. Like when when you turn and go into Oxmoor, you have Oxmoor's on the left and all the other stuff's on the right. If you stay on that road, it runs right into Oxmoor Farm.
Right, the road's right across from the dealership, car dealership there.
Yeah,
Past cold,
yeah, past Coles and all that good stuff.
it's next to Mason's.
It's past all that.
720 Oxmoor Avenue.
Yeah, I was trying to look for it. I couldn't find it. 720 Oxmoor Avenue. Is that what you say, John?
Yes, 720.
720 for those who are on Zoom.
Yep.
Next up, Diane.
Wait a minute.
Oh, wait, we have a question.
They want to know. Wait a minute. Money for picnic in Oxmoor Farm, where did send money?
She just
She just said it.
say it again for those on Zoom.
Do your address. Okay, so do you want to go ahead and say the address nice and loud and slow so that people that were not able to write it down?
Yeah, so, you can send it, this mic broke here, you can send it, make the checks payable to Sunnyside SMG. You can send it to my address, which is in the directory, but it's 302 Valleydale Drive, New Albany, 47150.
They're also wanting to know the cost to attend the Parent Park SMG meeting.
$5.
$5.
The picnic, the picnic at Parent Park is $5, as is the Oxmoor Farms, $5. And you can put it on one check if you're doing both things. Just make sure you say what you're doing, so I know.
What I can do is also send out an email tomorrow with your address, in case people don't have the directory for some reason. So I can certainly do that. Barb just made a good point. We did not approve the treasurer's report.
We don't.
We don't have to. Okay, all right, thank you. Diane? You want to join the circus? Come on up here. The more the merrier.
I can create a circus.
No.
So far, I haven't seen the clowns. Okay. So, you probably guessed why I'm here, Tomato Festival, okay? You all have it on your calendar for August 17th. It goes from 11 to 2. And, it begins at 9 o'clock, for setup and, of course, cleanup is at 2, okay? It's only 3 months, 11 days away, right? So, it's gonna be here. After we, plant our garden and everything grows and we spend 3 months of hard labor. Anyway, one of the big things we need is volunteers for, Tomato Festival. If you've got some time that day, we've got sign-up sheets at the back of the room. So, please, join us. It's actually sort of fun. Last time we had 300 people visit us and I think they all had a good time. And then we also had a lot of good stuff there. But also help us advertise the event so that we can actually get more people there. I've got some save the date cards back there. We've got flyers to put up. If you go to different places and you need a flyer, let me know. Glad to get you some. They're actually very cute flyers, very eye-catching. Thanks to Kara. Thank you.
It's on the web. If you just click on events and you'll see Tomato Festival, that flyer will pop up.
Okay.
Yes, it's
Yeah.
a PDF.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's printable on the web. So, but if you need more copies, do let me know. And what will, other things that you can get involved in, of course, we have a produce booth. That was a nice fundraiser. Remember, part of what we're doing is educating the population about tomatoes, but we're also raising funds for our different projects. So we have the need for produce and flowers that, for that day. Actually, things like, let's see, I think the request was for more green beans, okay? So if you wanna, plant an extra row that gets ripe during that time, I'll be glad to come out and pick them for you. That was one of my first good jobs in the world, was picking green beans. Basil, zucchini, squash, okra, peppers, beets, radishes, and of course tomatoes, okay, then we need those. And then we also sell little bouquets. So if you've got salvia, zinnias, dahlias, celosia, etc., anything that looks good in the bouquet, we could use that. You'll be able to deliver the produce on the Saturday before between 10 and 12 or the morning of the Tomato Festival. Let's see. Next thing you can get involved in is providing plants for fundraisers. For the fundraising, as you can tell with what happened with the Sunnyside Master Gardener booth at the Pollinator Day, it was great. You want to say something, Connie?
Yeah, I do have, you have to use the microphone so the people on Zoom can hear. Thank you, Connie.
First, I want to thank everybody who donated plants for the SMG booth. We really didn't know what to expect because we hadn't done that before. And it was phenomenal. People were just, they were ready to buy plants. But one thing we noticed that people were so appreciative of, and we might want to do this like at the Tomato Festival, you talked about our projects. Well, we had the display board, and on the display board, it had all of our projects. We have on there how many hours that we volunteered the previous year and what that equated to as far as monetarily. And so when people would be buying a plant, of course, we had all these books that were donated too. So we went through and we found books that matched plants that we had. And said, you buy a plant, make a donation for a plant, you get a book to go with the plant. And they loved that. But one thing that we found that was interesting is the more we started saying, well, this money goes to fund our projects. And over here is all of the projects that we have throughout the 2 counties. And we would point out, this is the hours that we volunteered last year, and it equated to this much money that the county or these people didn't have to pay, that we volunteered, and we love doing it. Well, they maybe bought $5 of the plants, but they'd give us $10 or they'd give us $20 because they knew what we were doing with the money, and it really made a difference. So thank everybody for the plants that you donated.
Thank you, that's good.
Thank you, Connie. Thank you. All right, so plants are good. So, things like, fall starts, remember it's August, so kale, broccoli, chard, cabbage, all that good stuff. And, we have, I think at least one member who's gonna be, growing some dwarf tomato plants. So that might be a nice seller. And then, of course, if you're in your garden and there's some perennials that that have just sort of become invasive and you want to chop them in half or, bring those in, that'd be great too. Let's see, another opportunity is to grow some tomatoes for the taste testing booth, which was a big hit at the, festival. We have 12 different varieties of tomatoes, and if you need some tomatoes, I have 50 of them in my car. I also have, 8 that I have no idea what they are. Okay? So you can take a chance and just see what you're gonna grow.
Mystery.
A mystery, yes. But yes, if you need some extra tomatoes, and remember, we only need the harvest from those tomato plants the week of the tomato festival. The rest of the time, they're yours to enjoy, to donate, to give away, to leave on people's doorsteps and run. And also, don't forget, we have a tomato growing contest. So we've got categories of the most perfect tomato. I think Lisa won that last year. The smallest was Joan. She won that. I don't know who won the weird one. And then we had the largest. We did have a young man who won one of those contests, so he was really very thrilled. I think that was the first time to actually try growing tomatoes. Anyway, so enjoy the contest. Anyway, do let me know if you have any questions and pick up some save the date cards back there if you have some place to put them or just to remind yourself. Okay, and the information will also be out in the newsletter. Question, yes.
Do you know when it's gonna be up on Facebook so we can start pushing people to the likes?
As soon as I get stuff organized, yes.
Okay.
Sometime this month. I will get it there. Yeah. My plan is to get it there sort of in pieces, so it's sort of something new every time about the tomato festival. All right.
Lisa, you're up. Pollinator Day.
So our 10th anniversary pollinator day was a huge success. Gina and I were thrilled. We had over 2,100 guests through the welcome station and probably 50 that came in through the exit. But that's okay. A lot of those were people that were older and didn't want to walk that far. So that's all right. So next year I'm going to put a counter out there so that I get a better estimate of that. We definitely had more youth this year based on how many supplies were used out of the booth. So that is a huge success. Another big success was Gina's boss from Purdue came down. This was the first time we got a big shot from Purdue to come down, and he was thrilled. He recognized how much work we all did. He recognized how important it was to the community and how important all the partnerships that we've created in the community with master gardeners and the master naturalists and the beekeepers and the banks and the kids all participating. So that was important. And Gina and I want to express our personal gratitude for all your time, talents, and treasures that you've all contributed towards Pollinator Day this year and all the years past. Pollinator Day would not be possible without SMG, and we recognize that and we appreciate it. If you have any suggestions how we can improve, will you send me an email? Please send them to me, not to Gina, because she gets bombarded with emails. We do try and improve every year. There are some things that are out of our control, like parking. But the things that we can fix for the better, we do try and fix for the better, so we appreciate your feedback. On a personal note, I want to apologize to everybody that was working the booths, that I did come around and check in on you and express my gratitude that day. I ended up in the ICU 2 weeks before Pollinator Day, so I was assigned a desk job. But that's why I didn't come around, and that's why you saw me being lazy all day. But anyway, I also want to personally thank everyone who stepped up in those 2 weeks to make sure that we got everything done. We had a work day at my house while I was in ICU, and then we had another work day doing all the trees shortly after I got out. And if it wouldn't have been for everybody to step up to support Pollinator Day and myself personally, it would have been a totally different situation for me. And I just want you to know that I appreciate it and I'll always remember that support. Thank you.
Debbie?
So I'm just gonna follow up a little bit more on Pollinator Day. I'm not gonna ask you for money tonight, like I did in January, February, March, April. So tonight, I just wanna say a big thank you for all of you all that did put money into the honey pot, sent a check in to the office. And the total was $1,605.
Thank you, Debbie. Okay, next thing on the list is Gina, and Gina is not here today, but she did send out an email, I believe it was yesterday, with some updates and some information for all of us to read. So please make sure you read the email, please. Next, is community outreach, which is Jean. Jean had another engagement today. So the one thing she did want me to share is that she has received a lot of recipes for the cruciferous recipe book.
Got it.
It's a hard one to say. And she's looking for any recipes that you have more specifically that involve horseradish, wasabi, rutabaga, and greens. So if you have any recipes in regards to those items, if you can make sure that you forward those to Jean Wolf. There was something else. Do you want to say something?
Yes.
Okay. Judith.
Thank you, Shelley. I'm thinking I'm going to name myself your unofficial entertainment correspondent. I have news about entertainment. I've talked to you before about the community orchestra and the community choir. There are several master gardeners that are in one or the other of those groups. So we kind of go back and forth. Sunday night, the community orchestra had a Star Wars concert. What did you think about that
That was
concert?
unbelievable, unbelievable. It was unbelievable. Well, that's this one, she was hopeful.
Yeah, I played timpani and some of the other percussion. We have a good time. It really is a good program. The reason I mention it is because we're doing it again tomorrow at Sam Peden Park on Grant Line in front of Walmart. Yeah, and it's at 6 o'clock from 6 to 7:30. So if you can come to that, it's free. Bring a chair, bring a snack or two and eat and have a good time. That's that. Second item, and I have posters in the back that I brought that you can take a picture to get all the details. We're also having, the choir is going to have a choir concert on May 19th, which I think is a Monday, and that's probably at 6 or 7. And it's also a lot of fun music. We're doing Beetle Invasion. Does anybody remember Michelle? Yeah, okay. Also the Dave Clark Five. Does anybody remember them?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so we're doing their music and then some music from the movies. So that's a fun thing too. So that's my, oh, and then my last thing is, I think it was did you bring the 2 pots? I saw her coming in with 2 great flower pots and I commandeered them. She was bringing them for the table. And so I commandeered them for the little shop at the Tomato Fest.
Oh,
Because we've been asking people, what would you like to see in that store? And they've been talking about flower pots. So I mentioned last month, I'll mention again, if you have a clay type flower pot, as long as it's pretty clean, I can clean it up and paint it. I've been collecting designs for that. And where we have, those are 2 first flower pots for our store. So if you have any more, bring them or let me know and I can come and get them or we'll manage. So I appreciate anything. I want you to be thinking about what you're going to bring for the store. Thank you. Thank you, Shelley.
Thank you. Okay, so do we have any other questions before we close down the meeting? So I will be sending go ahead, I'm sorry, Bob.
I sent an email to a few people, but I didn't have time to find all. if you would like to stop by, we have lots of peonies and things in our garden now. Ted and his wife came yesterday morning in the rain, and Jeff Cover and his wife came this morning. If you've never seen some of the newer peonies, there are really some interesting things, maybe give you some ideas that you might want to try to plant in your garden sometime.
Thank you. So again, just a reminder, we're accepting, I will send out an email with Mike's address, so for payments for the picnic and Oxmoor Farms, $5 each. At the picnic, like Jeff said, again, a reminder, bring your chair, bring something to drink, bring a dish to pass. The $5 covers 2 pieces of chicken for everybody. If you have plants, there is a plant swap. So again, just a reminder for all those things. What else do I have? Discount cards, if you don't have one, get one. We have them up here. What else do I got? Is that everything? Time. Okay, so we have 1 hour of training and
Half an hour business.
a half an hour of business. Okay. 0.5, if that helps you, because I know I get confused too. 0.5, and please make sure you put those in there because it's important for Gina to see, again, so we have the numbers of how often we volunteer and the many hours that we do volunteer for. So I am calling for a motion for adjournment.
Motion, say your name, please.
Mary.
Mary Klein.
Second,
Second, Jane Archer. Okay. Second, Jane Archer.
Jane Archer, seconded.
Sorry.
Any all in favor, say aye. Opposed? All right, the meeting is adjourned. Oh, and then we have to pull the tickets. So I guess